What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this one, we are reacting to Defense of Poland, the Battle of the Border, Part 1, Extra History. Very excited to hear about this. However, before we dive in, I want to thank you guys for you literally boosted the subscribers and you're running this channel up, and you guys are doing an absolutely incredible freaking job. You guys are amazing. But we are on this path to 1,000, so let's streamline our way there together. So if you happen to enjoy this, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Let's do it.
September 1st, Danzig, 4:48 a.m. The German battleship fires. 11-inch shells scream towards the Polish garrison holding the peninsula. Troops hit the dirt. A brick wall smashes inward. A radio man transmits to the next base along the coast. SOS, under fire. Bullets tear past. A Polish soldier falls. The first combat casualty of a new world war. Now there are German troops coming through the break in the wall. The Poles open fire, catching the invaders in a kill zone, forcing them back. Only 182 Polish soldiers defend this peninsula. They're under attack from a battleship, dive bombers, field artillery, and nearly a division's worth of German soldiers.
How is 182 Polish soldiers gonna defend against all that? How could 182? There's no way. There's no way you can defend against all of that. Just 182 of you.
Even the local police have thrown in with the Nazis, but they'll hold as long as they can.
Shout out to Poland, man, because that's crazy.
This series is brought to you by World of Tanks PC. Check out the game at the link below and use the code ORLIK for extra goodies. Okay. Mokra, southern Poland, 6:30 a.m. They must have crossed the border by now, the cavalrymen think. Nearly 10% of the Polish army is cavalry, modern cavalry, cavalry that fights on foot using horses to reposition and scout, cavalry that tows anti-tank guns behind them. Cavalry that's dug into a line of trees outside of the town of Mokra, along with an infantry division and a battalion of TKS tankettes, waiting to meet the invasion. Waiting is the hardest part.
Yeah.
The first Germans they see are motorcycle scouts. They exchange fire, probing. An hour later, the armor emerges. It's the 4th Panzer Division, pressing forward with 25 Panzer I and IIs, firing on the move. Autocannons set the thatched roofs of Mokra alight. The cavalry holds fire until the panzers close, then answer with their anti-tank guns. Half-dozen tanks slew, burning, grinding to a halt. Polish machine guns drive back the supporting infantry. They've stopped the first wave. Then comes another, and another. House-to-house fighting breaks out in the village. German armor and motorized infantry press close to the Polish positions. Airstrikes and artillery pound the woods. With a blast of steam, an iron behemoth pulls out of the trees. The Poles back up. Armored train number 53. Its twin cannons and machine guns open up. 12 German tanks go out of action. The 4th Panzer regroups and attacks again. Warsaw. Another crash.
Poland was prepared after they see wave after wave of German troops and tanks and all of this coming their way. They defend and fight and destroy all these German tanks, and they're pushing the Germans back. But how much waves can you genuinely defend against before it's just overwhelming? But that's absolutely amazing.
Rattles the window. German dive bombers have been hitting Warsaw since 8 a.m. Edvard Rydz-Śmigły, Marshal of Poland, looks at his map. Things are going as well as they can be, under the circumstances. Germany is invading Poland from 3 of its borders, north, south, and west. The enemy has around 53 divisions, while Rydz-Śmigły has 40, if that. But at least in these early hours, the Polish defensive lines are holding. In some places, better than that. At Mokra, the defenders report 100 German vehicles destroyed. There are problems, of course, but he has one big advantage. He doesn't need to win. See, Polish strategy rested on 2 major pieces of diplomacy. The first was a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, securing the country's eastern border and allowing the Polish army to prepare for the possibility of a German invasion. After all, Poland couldn't fight a two-front war.
No.
The second was a mutual defense pact, signed agreements with France and Britain to aid Poland in the event of a German invasion. As a sweetener, Rydz-Śmigły had given them Poland's most prized secret. They'd cracked the German Enigma codes and reverse-engineered a machine. He'd given each ally a copy of it earlier that year. It was a sound strategy. In order to invade Poland, Hitler would need to strip divisions from the German homeland, leaving only a token force on his western border. If Germany violated Polish borders, the agreement stated France would invade from the west, forcing Hitler to withdraw his troops and allowing Poland to counterattack. Britain would provide bombing support. But for the treaty to take effect, the invasion of Poland had to be contested. The Germans couldn't just walk in, as they had in Czechoslovakia. As a result, Rydz-Śmigły had been forced to spread his troops thin, ensuring that wherever the Germans crossed the border, they'd be met with resistance. His plan called for the Polish army to buy time with a fighting withdrawal and regroup near Warsaw.
But France, I'm guessing France and the British never came to Poland's aid after they signed a deal. They didn't uphold their end of the bargain, I'm assuming.
Ready to strike once France had mobilized and intervened. But he still didn't have enough troops, and it was his allies' fault. Every time Hitler made threats, Rydz-Śmigły had tried to sound the mobilization. But every time, Britain and France shut him down. A mobilization would give Hitler an excuse to invade, they said. And they continued saying so even as German troops gathered on the border. Even the week before, when Germany signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviets, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, they'd preached restraint. 2 days ago, Rydz-Śmigły had enough and sounded general mobilization. But the British forced him to rescind it. Now Hitler had made his own excuse, staging a fake attack on a radio station and blaming it on Polish partisans. So much for provocation. Luckily, Rydz-Śmigły had been secretly mobilizing troops for weeks, calling them up for summer maneuvers as a cover story. It wasn't enough, but it gave him an army. And that was a good thing, because as a result of diplomatic pressure, the Polish army hadn't openly mobilized until a day before the invasion. Now, just half of the army had reached their positions, and only a fraction of those were combat ready. Poland was vastly outnumbered, facing a mechanized opponent with more modern equipment. The Luftwaffe's yearly budget was larger than all Polish defense spending since 1935. Germany had produced 800 tanks in 1938. Poland made 50. But at least those 50 tanks were good tanks. 87% of German armor consisted of Panzer Is and Is, thin-skinned training tanks outfitted for combat. Poland's new 7 TP matched the Panzer I and II for armor, while sporting a larger, long-ranged Bofors gun. The old Polish TKS tankettes could do little against German armor, but the 7 TPs might make some difference if they made it to the battlefield. Still, at least things were going well, for now. September 2nd. Things are not going well anymore. By the second day, it's clear that the highly mobile tactics the Germans had field-tested in the Spanish Civil War, what others would later call blitzkrieg, are outmaneuvering and penetrating the Polish defense. Regular army units stand their ground, but the National Guard constantly withdraws in poor order, creating gaps in the line. The Polish army tries to make up lost ground in night operations, but the fatigue of constant battle offsets any gains.
So the Polish army, the ones that were ready for combat and prepared for combat, are holding their ground or fighting the Germans back. But it was the National Guard, the ones who weren't ready for combat, who hadn't been in combat, who weren't a part of the army, and they kept withdrawing. And I mean, I can't blame them. You can't. That's just fear of seeing overwhelming numbers, much more modern machinery coming at you. Fear kicks in.
Polish troops fight day and night for 3 days straight.
Jeez.
And the roads are nearly impassable. Refugees choke every roadway, getting in the way of troop movements, raving about Nazi liquidation squads operating behind German lines. Dive bombers enhanced the chaos, attacking soldiers and civilians alike. Communication begins to break down. The army doesn't have enough radios. Tanks have to communicate with signal flags. Meanwhile, the German armor executes precision encirclements coordinated via wireless. On September 3rd, Britain and France declare war on Germany. But by then, German forces were precariously close to Warsaw. But at least the 7 TPs finally arrive. September 5th, Piotrków, 10:30 a.m. It's the last opportunity to stall the German advance in the south. Polish troops are retreating to regroup around Warsaw. But if the 4th Panzer Division takes this road hub, the door to the capital will stand open. The day before, the 7 TPs of the Polish 2nd Light Tank Battalion had their first skirmish with the Panzer II, and had taught the German tankers to fear their 37mm Bofors cannon. Now the Germans are closing on Piotrków with tanks and motorized infantry, but there's a chance, just a chance, to cut off the bulge in the German line, to take prisoners, to surround them. It was time to counterattack. Major Karpov, commander of the 2nd Light Tank Battalion, orders the advance. They surge forward on either side of the German push, utilizing the low hills for cover, and close to 500 meters. The lead 7 TP sights in. The industrial chung of the gun fills the turret with acrid smoke. They fire again. A Panzer II burns. Autocannon rounds slap the 7 TP's glacis, failing to penetrate. The Germans' armor runs for the woods.
Yeah, they
On
do.
the other flank, 7 TPs tear through panzers and armored cars. Germans bail out of the burning craft. The 7 TPs encircle them.
Dang.
The 1st Light Tank Battalion strikes in the north, engaging a dozen tanks as they push toward the junction. But German artillery shells begin to drop, and there's no one following behind the 7 TPs to exploit their breakthrough. The German spearhead, though mauled, is still heading for Piotrków.
They did what they could do, but they just didn't have the numbers on their side. They were so overwhelmingly outnumbered that even though these 7 TPs were crushing it, there wasn't anybody who could expose the openings that these 7 TPs gave.
Major Karpov calls a withdrawal. In 2 days of fighting, his 2nd Light Tank Battalion has destroyed 17 panzers, 2 self-propelled guns, and 14 armored cars. During just this attack, Polish armor had destroyed 15 German tanks with the loss of only 7 of their own. But that doesn't matter. There are no Polish units ready or able to exploit the victory. The plan remains to retreat towards Warsaw. So that's what they'll do. September 7th, Warsaw. Marshal Rydz-Śmigły gathers his documents. Command staff haul radios and charts. They're evacuating to Brest along with the rest of the government. Plans call for making Warsaw a citadel, a stone for the Germans to break their teeth on. But he and the rest of the government cannot be killed in that assuredly bitter combat. The French are already massing on Germany's western border. Soon, he'll be managing a counterattack. He leaves a small communication team to forward messages onto his new headquarters. He has no idea how mangled the lines of communication are, how little he will know once he relocates, and how impossible it will be to transmit orders. The Polish army, already hard-pressed, is about to lose touch with its leadership. The next day, the 4th Panzer Division reaches Warsaw. Inside, soldiers set up concealed artillery. Civilians dig trenches, planning to trap German tanks and torch them with cans of gasoline. Warsaw is preparing for a siege. Thanks so much to World of Tanks.
That's crazy, bro. It's cool because over most videos that I get the chance to react to, you just hear about kind of Germany invading Poland and taking over, but you never really get to hear about how hard Poland fought back and how hard they resisted and what kind of fight they put up against Germany when that invasion happened. And so it was really interesting getting to hear that perspective and knowing they didn't just take it lying down. They gave Germany hell when they invaded, right? They fought as hard as they possibly could. And goddamn, it seemed like it took France and Britain forever to come forward and on their deal. And everybody should have been attacking Germany during that time. But that's all we have. If you guys enjoyed, please don't forget to subscribe, give a video a thumbs up, and check out the next one. And I'll see you guys next time.